Good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing? Today is FOMC day. Oh yeah, today's the day. Jerome Powell's gonna come out and speak here this afternoon. You guys ready for the craziness? What do you think he's gonna say? The tone on rate cuts for the future is going to be extremely important. Of course, he'll probably just talk about, we're going to let the economy play out. We're going to let the economy play out. I'm sure that we're going to hear that plenty of times here as he starts to speak, but it's going to be happening at 2 p.m. Eastern. I will be going live again at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time today for this event. $6.98 on SPY. Boom. I love that resistance there. $6.98.35 as well. New all-time highs were posted this morning. For those of you that don't know, technically SPY closed at a new all-time high yesterday, but it didn't technically make one until this morning. It tested it last night. Got very close, hit within 2 cents of it. But this morning, the very first opening candle here this morning pushed us right through. How is everybody doing today? Let's go. Tangy Man, Mark, Jack, I love YouTube, Sharpie, Steven, Outlaw, Jake, VT, Anton? Sorry, my screen is, it's hard to read. Antomit? I'm gonna butcher that one bad, sorry. Omni, Meatsack, 3D, Jack, Alexander, Joe Papa, Ramirez, RSB, J-Duck says lots of runners this morning. Well, let's see them. And let me close the book map really quickly. Helps to not have that open during the stream. At least it does here with this older computer. My new one should be fixed today, though, finally. Yes. But I don't know how I'm going to go get it because we have the live Q&A tonight, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll manufacture something up. There we go, Amazon 247. Pretty nice move there. Up in the green, checking it out. All Mag 7s are in the green besides for Apple. But Apple was green a minute ago, so maybe it'll go green again. But all Mag 7s are green on the day. Doesn't mean that they're going to go green from open. Microsoft is down slightly, Google down slightly, but they are still green. If Microsoft falls much more, it will turn red, but it will turn red. SPY's having trouble here. It's not really breaking out to a new all-time high in a crazy way or anything, but let me float you guys a scenario here that could play out. Whenever we look at the SPY lately, it's been moving higher, but it hasn't really been moving higher very consistently, we'll say. Whenever there's a new high that's made, the SPY immediately rejects down. Now, it eventually comes up and breaks that high again, but again, just very lightly. And then it falls right back for a couple days before, you know, re-ripping back again. That's not a very uncommon thing to see on uptrends. You know, it's never really like a straight shot up. It is sometimes, but obviously each scenario is unique. But if we look at the SPY right now, you know, it's chopping higher. You can see it right here in this circle. It's kind of going like this, right? Each time it breaks, it comes back to form another rally. It did the same thing on the way up in the past. And I mean, it will do that quite often. It's not very uncommon to see something like this. This is where a lot of traders get very excited about the dip buy opportunity. Now, what we could see today is going into the FOMC event, we could end up seeing the SPY make new highs. Now, let's say the SPY continues to rip. It's ripping into the event. There could be a scenario where we get like a buy the rumor, sell the news type of move. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily selling the news on the FOMC, but it's just that it would be that same type of price action, same type of movement there. Good morning, First Last, Christopher, 300Z, Willard, Raphael. Thoughts on MU? Micron, big chip stock lately. Wasn't the best yesterday, was it? Oh, no, it was pretty good yesterday. What was I saying? I must have been thinking of Monday. Yeah, yesterday it did a lot better, actually. This morning it looks awesome. I love the way in which it filled the gap here and is holding its range around 417 to 417.50. Yeah, it's holding up very well. It's actually a badass move. Gotta send the wife. What? Man, MU is awesome, though. I love that setup. One of the better setups that we've looked at today. Let's go ahead and start looking at some stocks that are actually moving besides just the SPY and the Mag 7. Intel, 9% again. God damn. A lot of it came at this opening move, too. And last night and after hours, but it's recovering back. It still has a long way to go, though. Long way to go. But it's coming back alive now. SanDisk, uh-oh. Of 7.8%. SanDisk, new all-time highs today once again. Damn, this stock has been extremely popular lately. One thing that happened with SanDisk today that, damn, I wish I was looking at it before open. It popped up, but then it bounced off of $500 here at that opening move and rocketed up. That's a huge level. I would have loved that. I would have ate that one up if we would have seen it. Oh, shoot. Don't worry, I'm not saying that about SanDisk. I just missed an important call really quick. Give me one moment, guys. Give me one moment here. I'm going to do a quick phone call really fast. We're going to throw on MU for a minute. Sorry about this. Very quick delay. It's regarding my dad's death, or else I wouldn't be I wouldn't be calling him back. But 1 second, guys. All right, I am back. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, don't worry, guys. It actually happened back in September, but I'm still dealing with so much with it, so sorry about that. Appreciate that, though. Appreciate the condolences and the kind words, of course. MU starting to really pull up, though, towards that high of the morning. High of pre-market, anyways. Let's go see SanDisk. SNDK moving up 524. Coming up into play 525. Again, new all-time highs for SanDisk. One of the more fun stocks here over the past few weeks and few months. Man, SNDK really going, though. 530 coming up. This is an insane move. Navitas Semiconductor, third on the watch list, up 8.9% again. We like Navitas around here quite a bit. NVTS can be pretty fun to trade. Navitas. Now, it has been pulling back a little bit lately, but we'll take today's PA at least. One sec, guys. Now the person that called me said that they were wrong. I'm gonna throw up Mag 7 really fast. 1 second. All right. My apologies there, guys. When the lawyer calls, you answer. What's going on, though? Tesla, please. There we go. Appreciate that. Dexter. First Last. JB. Duck. 300Z. I figured out what the music reminds me of. Anyone ever seen Grandma's Boy? No, I do not know. I've not seen that. I've heard people mention it, though. I think my good buddy said to watch it. It's like one of his favorites. Meta's doing pretty good, though. Seeing Meta move up here, 675 towards 676, which is pretty nice, up 0.36%. The SPY is just a bit stuck here. It's actually right at the old all-time high, 697.29. Of course, now the new all-time high. Let's go ahead and name the number again, because it's not in the forefront of my memory, but it's like 698.35, 698.40, something like that, I think. Let's see. It's officially 698.34. Yep. So a little bit off. I'm expecting a little bit of chop today into this FOMC event. I wouldn't be too surprised if the SPY tried to still rally. It seems like the SPY has been pretty resilient lately and likes to rally even though there's a lot going on or crazy news hitting or anything like that. It seems like it's been very resilient. Now, granted, it continues to pull back right after these bigger pops. So I'm a bit worried about these earnings or things like that, but we might see like a good initial move and then maybe earnings flip things around. That's something I'm a bit worried about here. Maybe earnings will help it continue in the initial direction, but you never know. You never know. You're flipping a coin on these events. It's hilarious, Tangy Man says. I'll have to see that movie. That sounds good. Uh-oh, JB says, Tom, would you have suggested exiting the MU... Oh, the surge bot call. The MU surge bot call based on the last few minutes of red candles. Let's go ahead and look at that a little bit closer here. It's called out about 10 minutes ago. No, that wouldn't have really warranted an exit there. For me anyways. You know, if we look at the SPY this morning, there's some structure here with it, really. I mean, it's holding support very well. There's a big range of support. And, like, you know, you would realistically want to hold that as long as support held up. Now, if we saw support start to give out, and we did see the structure break down and it showed some true downside action, at least like with the SPY here, that would be a bit of a worry, right? Now, if we look at MU specifically, SPY's still holding support and MU's also well above support. And the other chip stocks are doing pretty well today. MU gapped up, bounced off the gap fill. You know, it would be a hard cut here, really. I mean, I think that it's one of those types of plays where if you were scalping it up very quickly, and let's say that you entered, you know, right as the bot called it out, you know, it really depends. The thing that really sucks is that it depends on your risk management. Like if you're somebody that takes, if you take profits at like 10%, you're going to get stopped out a lot, right? In this case, you'd be stopped out. Now, if you're somebody looking maybe for like the bigger move for like a couple of hours in the middle of the day, I think at this point, you're going to be totally fine. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have a big range of support underneath you, and you're going to be used to, let's say, larger pullbacks than maybe like a quick like 10% scalper or something like that. But that is something that I think about, and it's something that I think a lot of traders should look at is, you know, how you trade is more important really than what you trade, right? In MU's case here, I love the way in which it filled this gap down here at this support. I mean, I know that it's tough to hold MU if it really like tanks down to there, but that's the volatility of this stock, right? It's a very volatile stock, and if you're gonna trade options on it, you're either gonna have to be really quick or you're gonna have to accept that, you know, the volatility is going to create larger downside moves than you might necessarily want. But like, let's say that you lose a play. Again, it's such a volatile stock lately. Maybe you end up winning and you make 200% on the next one, right? I mean, it's hard to say, but you kind of get the point, right? There's a lot of like statistics that go into that, I guess. But I'm going to actually send a video in the chat that I think might help you out a little bit. And one of the other things is journaling your trades too. We actually have a free journal that I'm going to send here. Ah, shoot. Let me copy this really quick. Yeah, if you guys don't have a trading journal yet, check this out. This is pretty badass. I just sent the link. Go make a copy of that. If you use Google Sheets, you can make a copy and, you know, use it to journal your trades. Don't forget, 2 p.m. Eastern, Federal Reserve interest rate decision today, followed by the FOMC press conference. I will be going live a second time today at 1:45 p.m. Eastern. Don't worry, there won't be any lawyers calling during that time. I can guarantee you that. That's their nap time. No, I'm kidding. I said that because the one is old. Kind of funny, but you guys don't have the backstory of the joke, but it's their nap time. Sorry guys, I'm like laughing at this now. Nice journal, Sean said. Yeah, it is a good good template. It's not bad. Oh yeah, Steve. Well. Oh yeah. Yep. Let's see. Definitely took a hit in the shorter term, but yeah, still up for sure. Still a solid 26% right now. Sorry, I had to go really find that one. Sean traded when it was sub 100. Oh yeah, yep. I should say the option is up 26%. We took some leaps a little while ago, or some longer term trades with, I'm not gonna call them leaps, but longer term trades with UPS. I guess it was leaps at the time. Wouldn't necessarily call it leaps now, but sorry, helping somebody out really quick. Sorry, guys, just checking something out really fast. UPS and GIS dividends are both pretty good for anyone that wants to just get a portion of their profile rest in a relatively safe stock. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's with UPS, I'm not going to say it's like, yeah, like you said, relatively safe, I guess, is what you could say there. I mean, I loved it down in this like 90, I would say 92 to 98 range. It was a pretty good range for UPS, and, you know, it ended up breaking out of it very well. It might fall back into there. I wouldn't be very surprised if it did, you know, given volatility and the way that these stocks end up really moving there, but I know what you mean. Yeah, Sean goes, safe as in it's not going to zero. Yeah. I see what you mean by that, but it is relatively safe. I feel like it's a very large company that, you know, is still broadly needed. One of the big things that I saw with UPS lately is that it bounced right off of support. Now, just because it's a broad company that's needed does not mean that it has to have a good stock price. That's not, it could go down from 106 where it is now to 30, and that's the nature of the beast. It happens sometimes. People never thought General Electric would do that, for example. I think that was one of the big ones that had done that. Hell, it was so bad they had to divest companies and stuff, I believe. But either way, UPS bouncing off a really large area of support. It is kind of like a safer place to park money, like you're saying. I mean, if I was being honest, though, if I was going to pick something, I'm not going to call it safe because, like, again, the S&P 500 is not even super safe, but like it's hard not to just look at like VOO, you know, or something similar. At least for performance and more consistency, but one second. Taking a quick screenshot here. Like it, Sean, though, talking about the dividends, too. Yeah, I don't really trade stocks for the dividends too much, but hey, it's always an extra added value, right? It sucks because it can, technically people say it negatively affects the stock price, and I guess it does. I don't know what's better, getting the dividend or just letting the stock go. Probably letting the stock go, but depends on what your what your intentions are. Thoughts on SBUX, SBUX, Starbucks, looking great today, actually. Why is Starbucks moving so much? I did see a little bit of chatter with Starbucks this morning, but nothing too crazy. Let's see. Starbucks sees coffee inflation and tariff headwinds peaking in Q2. Oh, they did have earnings. Sorry, my trading view didn't load the earnings dot down there quick enough, so I didn't think they did, but yeah, they did have earnings. Okay, makes sense. It's kind of what I thought. I don't remember seeing them on the earnings list for this week. That must have been one that snuck under my nose. Starbucks sees FY 2026 full year adjusted EPS 2.15 adjusted. Adjusted is 2.40. Damn, I thought they were going to say the expectation. I hate it whenever they list numbers. They don't put the expectation there. Yeah. Q1 EPS 0.56, misses a 0.59 estimate. Sales ended up beating with a $9.915 billion reading versus a $9.630 billion estimate. So beat by 360 million. Something like that. Pretty close. Get that earnings calendar up here. Where was Starbucks at here? Oh, all the way down there. How dare them. They put Amphenol ahead of them. Corning. We all like that one. Big deal with Meta yesterday. How are they faring today? Probably not the best. Nope. Had earnings and dropped a little bit. Every once in a while, you get good continuations there, but I feel like we see the wild pullbacks happen quite often. Steve said, would you agree QBTS is a good setup for maybe some leaps? QBTS. For leaps, specifically. Coming from Steve. Gosh, Steve. I don't love it, Steve. I don't love it. These stocks worry me quite a bit. As always, there's always a few stocks like Nvidia, for example, and others that, they start running kind of like this and they really explode and they just never stop, right? At the same time, you'll also see things like, Lucid, for example. Yeah, you'll see things like Lucid or Zoom. Now, these stocks aren't necessarily as up near as much as like what Zoom was, for example, but let's go like percentage there. From like the dip before the run to the high, Zoom was up 841%. Let's see what QBTS is from the dip to the high. Uh-oh. I think it's going to be much more than that. I got a feeling. I've got an inkling. Uh-oh. 4,000%. Yeah, I'd be a little careful. Obviously, two different parts of their companies, but yeah, I mean, it's just for leaps for me. I guess the only good thing is that you don't have share exposure and then you're not getting stuck in for like multiple years holding a stock down at like $4 while you own it at 25. You know what I mean? That's one of the big positives I see there. Again, people say we're still pretty far off for quantum. Can there be developments in quantum? I mean, for sure. Is it a sector that I like and look into? 100%. It's just, are these companies at the right price point? At least not for shares, you know. With leaps, I mean, you got to have a shorter term thesis, I guess, rather than looking at 5 years. You know, you're probably looking like a year out, 1 or 2 years out. But like QBTS, it's just not for me with where it is right now, with how it's moving. You know, it'll probably explode up to 200 and you'll be like, Tom. But even with that, at the end of the day, I feel like the more you look at companies like this, the worse it's going to be. But good question, Steve. Good question. Because, you know, QBTS is in that type of sector, though, that really, like, has the potential if you were going to think about sectors moving. I would say the quantum sector is probably one of the better sectors for sure. Wow, SoundHound AI announced a partnership expansion with Five Guys. No way. I have not had Five Guys in a little while, and now I'm pissed because I want it. Man, they keep closing around me. There's one left. Five Below has ticker symbol 5. They need to give it to Five Guys. Although if Five Guys went public, they'd probably be destroyed. Maybe they are. I never looked at it really, but SoundHound is the one that did the partnership, but SoundHound's not really moving much at all. Interesting though, to see it nonetheless. Five Guys isn't Sean Reed's favorite, really. They said maybe it's the one I went to, but I found it a little disappointing. Wow, you're like the first person that I've ever seen say that. But hey, you know, sometimes that's how it is. That's how I felt about my first In-N-Out experience. It comes out at 2 p.m., Kid Wonder. For anybody just now joining up, the FOMC interest rate decision comes out at 2 p.m. Eastern today, followed by Jerome Powell's press conference at 2:30. I will have it live right here on the StockedUp Live channel. Make sure you tune back in at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time. It usually pops off quite a bit with the FOMC interest rate decisions, so it'll be nice and fun for today. I do have to forewarn you, my computer is still in the shop. I'm using my backup, which is actually a really good backup. But nonetheless, it doesn't love it when I stream. So we'll be playing it carefully, so to say, during that. If there are some issues, again, you were forewarned. Should be all good, though. The problem is it hates YouTube for some reason. I don't know what's up with YouTube while I'm streaming, but it hates it. Let's go over to the SPY here again. Check in on it today. Once again, pullback. Wow, okay. Getting some pullback coming in there while we've been talking about other things. Pretty straight move down, actually. Breaking the low of pre-market where that structure was. Man, once that support started really giving out here. Uh-oh, that started to get kind of nasty. And, yep, dropped down towards 696. Which is actually the next zone of support I had, 696, 696.50, but I don't really love that bounce. It's not my favorite, if I'm being honest. It kind of like a volatile move here. Hard to trade this PA here so far today, in my opinion, with the SPY. Unless you caught the quick scalp right here. But, of course, we weren't looking at it during that time. Pre-positioning for FOMC, I think that could be the case starting to come through. At least a little bit of profit taking and, like you said, positioning ahead of this. Mike just posted that the FOMC is in about 4 hours. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it in hour sense, but it is only 4 hours away. It looks like a stop loss sweep. I feel like people think that about every little move in the market, and it worries me then whenever I start actually trying to analyze things. I feel you though. INTC still had that nice move this morning, trying to hold 47.50 here as support. Holding up pretty well actually so far. Not too bad at all. Institutional buying is to create buyers for the massive orders. So one of the ways they'll do it is to trigger intraday stop losses in order to create buyers. I mean, for sure, but I mean, people think that with every single little move. So like, I mean, I guess if that's your excuse for everything, hey, if it works for you, it works. But that's, I don't know. It could be, you're right. You're right, it could. See, that's the... That's the whole point of the market, I guess, right? Everything could be. App. Looks to be going up. Thanks, K-Rose says. Let's see, app here. I like that Intel bounce, though. That's a nice one. App, so far, not anything too crazy. Bouncing around 540 up to 555 plus. I like 556. That range up there right around the high of the day. It's about a 50-cent range to $1 range of resistance there. It's a very volatile stock that likes to move quite a bit. We can see today's candle is pretty lackluster compared to most. So don't think that today's move is too crazy or anything quite yet, but I don't love that PA so far, especially with it being stuck under resistance there with app. Let's go find some larger areas or some larger stocks starting to move better here. Amazon's really testing support of the morning. bouncing right around there. Could create some opportunities for some traders out there as maybe it starts to break down. You could maybe create an alert around 245 or so, be alerted on the breakdown, maybe catch a quick scalp. Just make sure you're setting it up smartly. Amazon has some high volatility going on. Yeah, this is a pretty choppy move here so far this morning. You know, if we look at Amazon lately, it's been in a pretty weird setup, I would say, compared to the rest of the Mag 7. You know, like you said, highly volatile, kind of pointing higher though, which is nice. I'm glad to see it pointing higher. You know, if we look at like Apple, Microsoft, you know, they've been kind of dipping lately, actually. Now, granted, pulling back a bit more today for sure, but yeah, dipping quite a bit lately. It's been nice to see Amazon holding up better. It's actually a pretty bullish setup here on Amazon. I like this quite a bit for the next few days anyways, not for intraday today. Of course, intraday can go a lot of different ways, but that's one of the big misconceptions that I see with day trading, especially with like the bots, for example, like the pullback spot, or let's say the surge bot or the hybrid bot, which call out the high risk breakouts and the pullbacks. One of the biggest things that I see that's the biggest misconception is catching that whole day move, right? It's not always the case. I mean, you know, maybe the bot calls something out and, you know, it's ripping like Amazon was earlier, and you know, you never know like when it might truly turn around, right? Even if the bot calls something out, I mean, and it, you know, let's say it calls it out like right within the smaller circle here. You know, again, it's not the best place for a call out. Well, as it starts to break down, I mean, you could possibly like exit the trade quickly and even enter in for an eventual reversal. It doesn't mean you have to enter in right away, but maybe you have a confirmation to the downside, or, you know, you're looking at some thesis in that way. I think that's a much smarter way to go rather than, let's say, you know, just holding and hoping, right? Too many traders hold and hope, and then also traders don't really like to reverse direction because, again, I think there's a big mental misconception with re-entering plays, right? Like if you are running into a situation where the stock is ripping like Amazon and it pulls back like it did here, you might need to flip direction sometimes. But I feel like those times that like you flip direction and then it doesn't work out for you is worse mentally than actually just straight up losing and bag holding the first play. And I maybe I'm wrong there, but I feel like that it's worse mentally to re-enter a second time and then lose again. But that will inevitably happen sometimes. But if you can really, you know, master that craft of like looking at that directional PA and finding like a good confirmation zone. And the thing is that each thing's dynamic. Like it won't be the same for each stock. Like you can't just say like, okay, well, once it pulls back 3% under the call out, then that's where it is. Like, I mean, that's not really the case because each stock's different, right? Like with Amazon here, you know, we have a decent area of intraday support, so to say. You know, a lot of wicks touching around like this zone. We'll just call it the support zone. You know, maybe that's where you're looking at it. Like if it re-breaks back below there, you know, you cut, you flip direction, and you know, you catch it down. It can help your trading quite a bit. Again, though, I think it's not the best for too many traders, especially if you're not used to, if you're not used to flipping direct, if you're not used to, let's say, statistics on trading, I don't think it's going to be very helpful. Like, I get too many questions that are, you know, Tom, if it pulls back 5%, I'm cutting, and, you know, if it goes up 20, I'm winning every time and stuff. Like, I feel like trading, you got to be more dynamic than that, of course. Reverse pyramiding. It's more along institutional thinking. If you enter with a 1% position, if it goes down by, say, 10% or 10 points, or what seems a fair distance to you, then, you know, you buy a 2%, another down, and you buy 4%, 8%, 16%. Yeah, I have heard of that, actually. I have heard of that. I've heard of doing that a lot with all types of statistics throughout the years, not even just trading. You know, I've heard of doing that with, like, let's say, sports betting or roulette or whatever, right? I've definitely heard of that before. That's a very interesting topic there, Sean. Said reverse pyramiding is what they call it. But yeah, I've heard that for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a mental killer, Jennifer. But it's like one of those things, though, that is honestly a necessity. Like, whenever you're trading, you know, there will be times that the market flips direction on you, and you might have to actually decide at some point to flip direction with the market. But again, it doesn't mean that you need to hold it all day long or bag hold it or anything. Maybe it's just a quicker scalp, something like that. And you know, the quicker the scalps, I think the better it will work out. The longer that you hold, I think the riskier, honestly, as far as day trades. Now, if we're talking about cutting with a stop loss, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about time in the trade, specifically. I know a lot of people like using the candle snap rule. That's a fun one to exit with. You know, you see a 5-minute chart like Amazon, let's say. Like, let's just say the bot called it out at the top here by mistake. Not by mistake, but just it ended up being a bad trade. Let's just say that it was a dud. You know, pulls back really quickly. Let's say it called it out on this candle. Once that low of that candle breaks, I mean, you're gone. So, like, you know, you might have an L, but it should be fairly small because that candle broke down on like a 5-minute chart, let's say. Of course, this can help during a lot of uptrends as long as the 5-minute candles are not breaking back below each other. Sometimes it might result in some smaller wins and smaller losses than your intended direction too, and hey, that's fine sometimes. If you have like a target of 30% and the stock's at 20%, and we're seeing price action shifting to the opposite direction in a strong way, and you can obviously tell that momentum's there, you know, don't be afraid to, again, like, lock in profits maybe a little under your target too. I mean, you have to be very dynamic in the market, and that's one of the things that I really like to say is, you know, let the market dictate what you do. Don't try to dictate the market, right? Too many people try to dictate the market. I mean, hell, there's some people out here blowing on their monitors trying to get this to go up. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, that some of those are jokes, but it's kind of like those old ladies at the casino, right? Like they're doing spins on slot machines, and they're tapping the screen. They're like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna win if I tap it here," or something. Or I don't know what their deal is, but. Steve goes, I think I've done that. Yeah, the superstitions, yep. I'm a very unsuperstitious person. I know a lot of people are very superstitious, and, you know, like, if I'm, like, playing golf or something, I'm not superstitious, but, like, you know, like, if I have like a pair of gloves that I like or something and they feel good, you know, if I wear a new pair of gloves and they feel different, then yeah, you know, I'm superstitious about my gloves. But, you know, like, other than like golf or something, I mean, with like stocks and the market, I mean, I don't know. Oh, you'll eat yourself alive with the superstitions. SPY's getting very slow here, though. You know, we do have this big event coming up later. SPY's slow. Let's go check on some of the bigger chip stocks here. NVIDIA, pretty slow as well, bouncing around 190 to 190.20 or so. There's some long downward green wicks there, Sean said. Yeah, they are. On the 5 minute here. Let's turn it to a 1 minute so it don't look as bad. Now it's only one big wick. At least green. This was a weird volatile move, though. I guess NVIDIA is pretty volatile. I know a lot of people like to eye up those gap fills. NVIDIA did bounce right on support here this morning before coming higher. Slight downtrend from earlier this morning. I would just call it resistance rather than, you know, a downtrend. It does line up, though. Lines up pretty well. Nonetheless, though. Be interesting if NVIDIA starts blasting through here, through this trend to the upside here at some point today, but until we start to see that develop, I don't know about being too bullish going into this event. Of course, NVIDIA will probably be what fuels the SPY if we do get a rally going. I'm eyeing something up today. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to go look at TLT, and I'm also pulling up the FedWatch tool to show you guys something kind of cool. I know we talked about this yesterday, but I'm going to talk about it again today because with the FOMC going on here in a little while. And for those of you just now joining up, I will be live at 1:45 p.m. Eastern for that FOMC event coming up later today. But if we look at the CME FedWatch tool here, of course, there's a pretty high chance that there's going to be a pause at this meeting. At least that's what the market's pricing in. Prediction markets are pricing in it in as well. And yeah, overall, this is what we're seeing. Well, something I found very interesting is that if we look at this data, Jerome Powell's term ends in May. The last FOMC meeting for Powell is going to be April 29th, 2026. In due time, we might be getting rate cuts, but the market's not pricing in a cut to happen until JP is out of office. But the very first meeting that he's out of office is right where the market thinks that we're going to be lowering rates, cutting rates again. So very interesting dynamic here. Of course, Jerome Powell isn't very friendly towards just cutting rates blindly. He's a big fan of leaving. Excuse me, guys. My word. Hit me out of nowhere. He's a big fan, though, of leaving the economy right where it is right now. At least there hasn't been any rhetoric away from that yet. So that's what people will be looking for. But I'm expecting JP to come out and say, look, you know, we cut rates a few times last year. This year, we're just going to leave rates steady. And we're going to see how the economy performs, at least for the first couple quarters or so. That's what I'm expecting. Again, we'll be halfway through the year here when JP's out of office. So Whoa, Sean said, get you a Red Bull or a coffee. Oh man, I know. I need one. Every once in a while I get hit with it here. Not very often, but of course on FOMC day, right? I don't even I can't even get to the damn gas station right now. I made you yawn. It's weird how yawns are contagious. They really are. And you know, some people go like, that's not true. It's true. I don't know what's up with it, but it definitely happens with me and my fiance more than I'd like to say. Tesla bouncing at 434. Now I'm gonna do it again, Sean. It's not every 45 days, Daniel. Let me, you know what? Maybe it is, actually. Let me... I don't think that this is 45 days, is it? Damn, maybe it is. Maybe it is every 45 days. I always called it a month and a half. So I guess that kind of is right on 45 days if you think about it, or very, very close at least. I don't think technically it's right on 45 days every time, but you know what I'm saying. I haven't ever really looked though in that sense, so you kind of stumped me there. Good question. WDC, people are saying went ballistic. Did they have earnings? I thought they did. Did they? No? Oh, it's Thursday. They have earnings on Thursday. Somebody asked about the algorithm a little while ago. I think I missed the question, though. Let me scroll back here. Ha. Yeah, Mason said, keep doubling down till you win. That's kind of what that pyramiding is, the reverse pyramid. Yeah, you're right. That's the problem, is that there's limits set, right? That's where the problems come in. Because if there wasn't, that would actually be a way to win. Kid Wonder said, do you ever explain other algorithms on TradingView? I don't really, Kid Wonder. I don't really use any. So there's no point in really explaining them to me. You know, of course, if you're interested in some, I would just go do like some YouTube videos and watch some more in-depth explanations on certain algos that you like. Again, I don't really use any. I use the StockedUp algorithm, which shows me some solid stats in the bottom right. I can also throw on some support and resistances, overbought and oversold labels as well, likely to rise, likely to sell labels, which can, excuse me, maybe help you dictate direction a bit better. But here's like an example of like support and resistance on here. I'll throw it on to SPY, for example. All right, so you can see out through these red and green lines. Now, of course, the dark green and red lines are mine, but the dotted ones are from the algo. And generally, it puts it right in awesome spots. Actually, very close to a lot of the big ranges that I have anyway. So, it's pretty cool there. You know, get a little confirmation on some levels maybe. But that's what I stick with. You got the Surge bots. Yeah, Surge bot. out there in the high-risk breakouts, of course. We don't talk about that too much on the channel, at least the specific plays, because, of course, it's for premium members only in the Discord. But yeah, of course, we had the Surge bot as well. That's not necessarily an algo on TradingView, though. Yeah, I love it, Steve. If you're interested in the stocked up algo, let me grab a link really quick. It's a one-time payment, which is nice. Here we are. There you go. Yeah, I feel you, Sean. That's what I figured. Martingale system. Ah, okay, that's what they call it. Yeah, he called it a reverse pyramid earlier. But yeah, martingale is kind of another way to say it. What's the likelihood JPOW mentions the USD JPY carry trade unwinding? Is there any US intervention in motion yet? Last that I heard, there was no US intervention yet. But there was those, I think, what they call it, rate checks going on, where they're looking at the currency rates and checking in before they make that intervention. Unless something happened early this morning, but I had not heard of intervention yet. JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America are going to match $1,000 U.S. contributions to employee Trump accounts. Wow. That's kind of surprising and interesting. Very interesting there. Still extremely cold outside. Gosh, when are we going to start getting the high temps again? I hate this cold. Look at the market a little closer here again. Wow, Tesla's starting to fall down here pretty harshly. Same thing with Google. The market's falling down. 696 coming up. Meta's pulling back hard. Amazon's kind of pulling back. Wow, we're seeing a lot of the Mag 7 pulling back all at the same time, kind of dragging on the SPY here, which is almost back to break even on the day after running up to new highs there. pretty wild drop off there by Meta. Let's go shoot Meta up here on the chart really fast. Daily looks kind of rough. Last time they reported earnings, they had a massive drop off. They're going to be reporting here tonight. Watch those capital expenditures. I think the Armada approaching Iran could affect the market. Yeah, you know, Meat Sack, that's a good question too. I do think that it can impact things a little bit, but generally the market doesn't get too riled up about these little strikes and things from what I've seen. Of course, if we were to do like a full-scale war or like true invasion or something like that, like with Iraq or whatever from like the 2000s or something of that nature, then I think things could get crazy. But again, I just think these small strikes are just seen as what they are, just kind of smaller strikes. I think it'll help gold and silver though. Maybe oil too. That's the fun market. Intel looks like it's holding up. Bought too soon, but should pan out. Let's see. INTC. Oh, holding its range really well. It's still holding support, bouncing again at 47.50. It continues to hold there. Yeah, it's weird, Sean. All the gamblers call it martingale. I don't know. I guess they came up with that during the casino run or something. Sean said, I see that pullback as bullish. Not immediately, but post FOMC I do. Steve said, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but if you see a company with 25 to 30% short float, should I be worried about a drop soon? Not always, Steve. Not always. Now, generally, that does show that a lot of people are short it, and probably a lot of institutions and etc. But I would not necessarily only look at it for a drop. What a lot of people do, now this is kind of rare, but what a lot of people do is they wait for like a short squeeze regarding that. They really wait for a short squeeze. Yeah, with stats and stuff, Sean, people like to use all the same stats for both. It's weird. I don't know what's up with that. I guess it works out in some cases, but not always. IREN got squeezed yesterday. Yeah, because that's what some people look for, is like for a short squeeze there. Where essentially the short float's going to drop because they're going to be forced to liquidate if the stock goes up enough in the short term. And then they'll even add to the uptrend because, you know, technically as they close those shorts, they're buying to close. No, it sounds weird, but it's just how it goes. For those of you that have done this for a while, you're probably like, Tom, but trust me, guys, there's a lot of people that are like brand new and they don't even know what a short squeeze is. You like the bull flag setup here? Call a little flag, yeah. has that type of setup. Interesting, up 2.6% today. Let's throw up the watch list. Intel's leading the way. Well, that's how you know something's a bit weird. SNDK still up quite a bit, but not like it was earlier. Definitely pulled back. It looks like it's trying to get some green momentum again, though. Might be decent to still throw on the radar. Alrighty, guys. I think we're going to go ahead and call the stream there. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and be live later today at 1:45 p.m. for the FOMC interest rate decision and all that fun events later on. I won't be live for earnings, though, because we'll be making tonight's video throughout that time, but we will be live, like I said, later on. The event starts at 2 p.m. I'll be live 15 minutes before that at 1:45 Eastern. Make sure to set your alarms. Join back up here. Things usually pop off. We have a lot of fun during these events too. But thanks for joining up today. I know we talked about and looked at quite a few things this morning. Honestly, seemed a bit more eventful than yesterday morning, if I'm being honest, but maybe that's just myself. Whenever you join up later today on the FOMC, I'm going to have a poll going, so make sure you vote up in the poll too. Let's get as many votes in that poll as possible. If you haven't voted in the Stocked Up poll on YouTube as well, go check it out. Other than that, let's have a great rest of the day. I hope to see you guys in the Discord. If you're not yet in the trading floor, if you've been having a good time, come check it out. Throwing a link in the chat right now. Code CRUSH 2026 is ending here very soon. What's up, Dizzy? You can either email support@stockedup.university or you can go to the SM chat and ask questions as well. Ah, Sean's holding out for a hero. Oh yeah, you know. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Let's have a great one.